Grokan and Malud all stopped, moved to the side of the hallway and stood at attention. They were completely stunned, having never seen a general ranked that high before. He was old with white hair and wrinkles, but he still had a sharpness in his eyes and walked with a certain danger. More shocking than the general was Sophie, who appeared to be chatting casually with the general. This was the same Sophie whom Grokan had beaten at poker yesterday and to whom Malud owed $30 for a bar tab. The same Sophie they joked with was now casually talking to a general who could probably have them sent to anywhere in the universe at a moment's notice. Once the general noticed them, he let them be at ease without pausing. Sophie stopped and asked, "Are you guys going to lunch?" They all stood there frozen before Malud muttered a yes. "Great, I'll catch up with you soon," Sophie said as she continued her conversation with the general. The rest stood there shocked for a moment before slipping off to the cafeteria while sharing increasingly ridiculous ideas. "So you are telling me this old man was a 7-star general?" Farkob asked. "Yes," Grokan and Malud answered. "He was the general of the armies for several different planets." Farkob asked. "We saw his uniform," Grokan said. "I double-checked to make sure I wasn't crazy," Malud added. "And Sophie was just having a casual chat with, maybe about the weather or where to get a good cup of tea?" Farkob asked, and Sorad, the other soldier with them, faintly chuckled. "We are serious here. You guys need to get better at making up cis stories." "We'll just ask Sophie," Malud said as he waved down Sophie, who had just entered the cafeteria. Sophie waved back and strode over to them. "What's happening? What's happening with us? What's happening with you?" "Who were you with?" Grokan said. Sophie gave them a puzzled look before answering. "Voshman." "Ha! I knew you guys were lying. We don't have any 7-star generals named Voshman," Farkob said. "He was definitely a 7-star general. Maybe you just don't know him." Sophie interrupted before any of them could speak. "Oh, no, his last name is Ruksha. That was General Ruksha," they all shouted. Sophie just nodded. "What did you do to get him talking to you? Are they shipping you to the coldest, darkest parts of the universe for garbage duty?" No, Sophie quickly said. "I helped raise and teach Voshman, General Ruksha now, when he was young. We were catching up." Everyone sat in silence before Farkob spoke. "Oh, I forgot that about humans. Shit, you're right. That's it." Grokan agreed. What? What am I missing?" Malud asked. "Sophie is a human. She is old." "Hey," Sophie said. Malud continued, "What do you mean she is old?" "Ah, you haven't been around humans much. They are immortal." "Unaging," Sophie corrected. "Wait, so how old are you, Sophie?" Malud asked. "I'm just in my Just in her 30 seconds, Grokan repeatedly, mockingly. Malud stared at Sophie as she grabbed her lunch tray from a serving robot while muttering, "Thanks." "Yeah, I'm just in my 30 seconds, Sophie said, and they added more quietly. 330 seconds. "You are over 300 years old," Malud said in disbelief. Farkob and Grokan grinned silently to themselves while Sorad sat with his mouth open. Sophie just nodded her head as Malud tried to keep up. "You would have seen so much then. I thought I was older than you." Farkob and Grokan let out a laugh at this. "You would have been alive for the Kosar, my species' independence war." "I was fighting in that war," Sophie said, then quickly added, "on the Kosar's side." "Do you know all the major figures from then? Did you meet General Malud?" "Yeah, I fought alongside him during the early parts of the war," Sophie revealed nonchalantly before eating a scoop of pudding. "Wow, just wow. Not being able to die must be wild. I can die, we can just reverse our aging. And you still fought? What if you had died? Weren't you scared of losing it all?" The group looked at Sophie expectantly. She paused, holding a spoonful of pudding. "It was scary. It still is, but it's scary for everyone. Once you die, you lose the rest of your life, whether you are me or you. Some things are worth fighting and dying for." They sat in silence while Sophie finished her pudding. The even more amazing part was after the war. The Cossars threw the greatest party I've ever been to. It was legendary, but I bet they didn't teach you about that in your history books. I don't believe that Farkub said like Malud is great, but the Kossar are a bit serious and solemn. That's the key part. Most places would be able to party for maybe a day or two. Then things start breaking down and people have to go back to work. The Kossar would be partying, look at the clock, sober up enough for the work they had to do, and then go right back to partying when it was done. They managed to party for over a month while also putting together a new government. They all laughed at this for a while until Malud asked, "So, how did you get your immor. Aging?" "All humans have it. It's one of the things we guarantee everyone gets." "Wow, like I know that there are some treatments for my race, but they are highly individualized and very expensive," Grokan said. "Ours are also individualized. It isn't cheap, but we demanded it and fought for it. Humans fought for it. That's a longer story, but I'll give you the short version. Let me finish my lunch first," as Sophie downed the last few bites. It begins many years ago when humans had just started to figure out life extension or how to stop aging. Only the rich or powerful could get it, but that's just how it is at first. It was an expensive and complicated procedure, but people kept dying. It was a man named Mark who lit the fuse. His grandmother died of old age, a grandmother who had raised him and he loved dearly. He was loudly asking, "But why?" again and again. But why did she have to die? Why couldn't I have some more time with her? Why couldn't she see me graduate? See my first child? Be a part of his life? This simple question connected with a lot of people. Some people had other reasons, but many more were also losing someone they deeply cared for. There were objections. It would be too expensive. It would break the economy. It wasn't natural. It would disrupt society. It would make life meaningless. Most of these were from people in power who didn't want to disrupt the status quo. We answered with our rallying cry, "But why? But why do we want an economy that forces our deaths? But why do we want an economy that forces our deaths? But why do you get to choose how to give our lives meaning?" Unfortunately, these clashes went from peaceful and ideological clashes to violent clashes. It got messy during this time, but we came out victorious. We got it written into law that every human had a right to life extension. It was more than we were originally going for, but after all that fighting, we didn't want to have to fight again. It was not something easily earned, but we haven't regretted it once. It's one of the reasons I am out here now, to help other species get this same thing. The brief silence was punctured by Sorad, who spoke for the first time. "My grandmother just died. Natural causes." A smile came across Sophie's face. It already took some getting used to a human smile, which looked more like they were threatening to bite you, but this smile was different. It was a mischievous grin that concerned them, the kind of grin someone gets before lighting a fuse. "But why?"